Welcome back to PulpMX Fantasy, the #1 resource on the web for all things fantasy moto. My name is Donnie, and in this video, we're going to learn how to play PulpMX Fantasy, in particular for the outdoor motocross season. If you've played PulpMX Fantasy Supercross before this season or in the past, you will obviously find the PulpMX Fantasy Motocross for the outdoor season incredibly similar. There are only a few tiny tweaks in scoring as well as a bit of tweak in strategy to go along with that. Feel free to watch this video as a refresher if you feel you need it, but don't expect any ground to be broken here. Instead, be on the lookout for a comprehensive strategy video to release soon. When it's out, I will link it up here at the top of the screen. So why should you play PulpMX Fantasy Motocross? It is fun, it's free, and quite simply, it is the absolute best way to play fantasy moto, whether it be Monster Energy Supercross or Lucas Oil Motocross. The site is sleek and intuitive, the scores are updated in real time, and it will really get you familiar with each and every rider, not just the top stars. Each week, you will assemble a team of 8 riders in hopes of scoring as many points as possible. 4 riders from the 450 class, 4 riders from the 250 class. Pulp uses a handicap system in order to make each and every rider a viable pick. So you can pick your favorite riders, not just the best riders. It adds so much excitement to the races and even to the single lap qualifying. And this is 100% free, by the way. You can create an account, join a league, and play entirely for free, for fun, but for just $19.99, you can join the Championship League, which awards super rad prizes from all of the Pulp sponsors every single week in addition to end of the season prizes. If you manage to win a week, you will take home an authentic, autographed, race-worn jersey right off the back of a rider that raced that weekend. You can also win Michelin tires, 100% goggles, Fly racing gear, Vertex piston kits, motorsport gift cards, and at the end of the season, 2 people will take home a brand new 2020 Yamaha dirt bike. One for the overall series winner, of course, but the second is literally chosen at random among all paid Championship League players. You don't even have to be any good. Just pay your 20 and set your lineup at least once and sit back and wait for Lady Luck to do her thing. So, how do we play? Each week, you will need to pick 4 riders from each class, and this is your team for all 4 motos of the race, with at least one of these riders being an all-star rider. All-stars are the riders that even the most casual fans will recognize. This is because the all-star poll is made up of the top 8 riders in each class, selected at first by the Pulp team, but after the first race of the season, it will instead be the top 8 in points for each class. The rest of your team can be made by any riders that you want as long as you did not pick them last week. That's right, you can't pick the same rider in back-to-back weeks, forcing you to go out of your comfort zone and pick a little bit of a variety of riders. Each and every rider will be assigned a handicap, which will adjust their final position, moving them up and occasionally even down the board to make every single rider in the field a viable option. Obviously, no one would expect Freddie Noren to straight up beat Eli Tomac in any given race, but maybe you would take Noren with a 7th-place handicap. This is what makes Pulp special. The handicap really does make every rider a viable pick. You may have noticed earlier when I said at least one all-star, and you may have asked yourself, why wouldn't I want to pick more than one of the top guys? This is what makes Pulp special. The handicaps really do make every rider a viable pick. So, let's get into scoring. You may have noticed earlier that I said at least one all-star, and then maybe asked yourself, why wouldn't I want to pick more than one of the top guys? Well, that's because all-stars score differently from the rest of the field. Scoring an all-star is pretty straightforward. After applying their handicap, they score the same amount of points as they would if they had actually finished in that position. 25 points for first, 22 for second, 20 for third, etc., all the way down to just a single point for 20th place. Let's take a look at an example all the way back to Hangtown last year, first race of the year 2019. Going into the season, Eli Tomac was a 2-time defending motocross champion. He had just won the Supercross season finale in Vegas 2 weeks prior. Because of Eli's reputation and recent results, his handicap was just 1, playing into the popular belief that he is going to dominate the competition again every single moto of the season. This means that if you wanted to maximize your score and you wanted to pick Eli, you're banking on him to score second or better in both motos for the day, since his 1 handicap would move him up just 1 position. Unfortunately for Eli, he finished the day 4th in the first moto before winning the second. A 1 handicap improved his first moto finish from 4 to a 3rd, and since he crossed the line first in the second moto, he didn't even need his handicap to max out the points there. So for the weekend, he brought his owners home 45 points total, 20 in the first moto, 25 in second. All All-Stars score this way. The non-All-Stars, however, is where the fun really begins. Instead of weighing their handicap against a first place finish like the All-Stars, the rest of the field is actually weighted against 10th place. And if, after you adjust for their handicap, they are indeed in the top 10, then they score double the amount of points. Most players see a 10th after handicap as the target for their riders, and anything better than that is just gravy on top. Using 2019 Hangtown as an example again, Colt Nichols was not an All-Star and had a 2 handicap. This means that he was expected to finish around 12th place, which in a deep field was a realistic probability for Colt. But Colt Nichols is oozing with talent and began the season last year red hot. He finished 5th in the first moto of the event before finishing 3rd in the second. So after factoring in his 2 handicap, that would leave us with a 3rd and a 1st place finish. But because he is not an All-Star, each moto that he scores inside the top 10 after handicap gets doubled. So even though he scored 1st and 3rd, just like Eli did, picking him actually earned you 90 points, which was the best pick of the weekend. The non-All-Stars can be quite a gamble though, with some riders having as high as an 18 handicap, giving them a ton of cushion to score big points, but be careful, as those risky picks have high handicaps for a reason. They don't always pay off, and a DNF is very likely a 0 in outdoor motocross. So you are pretty much gambling against the spread on 8 riders every weekend. You're looking to find the riders that you feel confident will outperform their handicap spread each and every week. After you have your 8 riders, the last thing you need to decide before locking in your picks is if you want to gamble and select an FFL or first to the finish line. Similar to grabbing the whole shot, the FFL is awarded to the rider that is the first to cross the finish line after the gate drops. Some tracks, this could be an entire lap before they get back to the finish line, but some tracks it's right after the first turn. If you guess correctly in one or both of the motos, you will earn 15 points per class that you selected an FFL in, but if a rider you picked fails to grab either FFLs in either moto, they instead lose you 7 points. So that's a potential 22-point swing, and that is huge and can really make or break your weekend. And these are the basics. If you want to learn more about PulpMX Fantasy, be sure to follow RotoX Fantasy, that's me. On Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, I post up-to-the-minute news on rider injuries, track conditions, qualifying results, and our ever-popular cheat sheet that comes out right after qualifying that helps you break down the qualifying results and how it should play into your picks. But before you do that, please click the little subscribe button and hit the bell so that you are the first to know about our new videos, including weekly preview shows chock full of stats to help you maximize your picks for Saturday. I'll go ahead and give you a second to hit that sub button. Okay, good. Also, be sure to share this video with your friends, moto or not, if you think they would be interested in playing fantasy moto with us. I personally have friends that were not into motocross at all, not experienced with the sport in the slightest, that I was able to bring into the sport because they just love to play fantasy and they needed to fill a void when their main sport wasn't active. Once you sign up, be sure to join the RotoX Fantasy League on PulpMX, link down below, and that will take you straight there, or you can just search RotoX Fantasy on the PulpMX Fantasy website. Expect to preview videos Friday morning before race day. Be sure to snag the cheat sheets from Twitter, a strategy video that is good for the entire season shortly, and our brand new RotoX Insider podcast launch scheduled for August 2020. My name is Donnie, and I'll see you guys at the finish.